Hello viewers, welcome to this particular session. I want to all thank you for your inputs, the messages and all the different requests that I have been receiving in my inbox. And before we proceed, I would like you to subscribe to this channel, share it with your friends, and so that we can continue developing our skills and even unto perfection. So from my inbox, I came across a message from one of our viewers who asked us to give the simplest and the most accurate way of installing grid lines. And just before we embark on that, I want us to emphasize on the need of always having grid lines into consideration, especially when it comes to doing the floor plans. Basically, having the grid lines in place by now in the construction industry, we are introduced to a tool that is able to help us locate and even know the precise point where we need to put our construction elements such as columns, pillars, or any other aesthetic uh, element that we need for our floor plans. So at this time, we want to begin by going and activating our grid element tool that is on the left side of the panel. So we activate it and we go straight to the settings dialog arena where we activate that. Then from here is where you realize that we can customize all the necessary details of our grid lines in line with our tastes and preferences. So the first part for me here is that we'll have the floor plan area where I'll customize this to, okay, depending on whatever you're designing, can be designing a multi-story system, structure, sorry. We can also be only designing a single story building. So we are always not limited of the options to use, so you can choose any that befits you. So for this particular lesson, I'll choose on all stories. Then for that matter, I'll still go to my preference. We can have the dense dotted, the dashed a kind of line. We can also have the hidden line, but I know most people like using the dashed, so I'll also go with that. Then we can have the color for the particular grid lines, and definitely for these I'll use blue, uh, type 26. Then I'll go down to elevation and believe by this, sorry, I supposed to put dashed for that. Then for the markers, I think I'll come here and use my most preferable font, and that is the Bodoni MT Black. Then I can definitely, that is Western, so I can have these as the font size as, let me state at 3. I think that is okay. Then I'll leave the other text pen tool as 10. Then in this case, I'll come and the elements, you can customize them the time. So I believe all those settings have been saved. So on then these are very important aspect here where what we call the automatic naming system. And for the automatic naming system, we need to have that starting as A. Of course, we need to start our naming processes from A. So we go back and start the activation tool, and we precisely define a point. Then for that point, we'll have, let us say, a grid line length of, say, rather, let me say 5 meters. I think 5 meters will be okay. 5 meters. Yeah, so can enlarge the font a bit. So we have the 5 meters for our grid line. Then remember, these are the definite lines that define our columns and pillars, and so in that regard we will have many of them in place, and that we'll do by clicking on the move tool. Then the next thing is to drag a copy of the particular gradient that we had in place. So you click on that line, then you will see another line generated below it. In this line, we'll first ensure that it is at 90 degrees, and number two, you also need to direct, or rather precisely give where you need the line to be positioned. So for me, I position it just below the first grid line, then click on it. Then in that matter, I also go to the next a particular grid line. Sorry for that. We'll go back, and then the next thing is to drag a copy again. So for that matter, we'll go back there and drag a copy. Click on that, then below it define it as, say, 4,000. That is rather 4 meters. Then the next thing here is we still go back again. Sorry. We click on that, then go back to the move tool, then we go to drag a copy of the same, click on that and make it go there, then another 4,000. And so by now you already see that it is just a progressive thing, and I can do the rest as time goes. So we can start with those ones. Now, as you can see from my page, you realize that the naming system is maintained as A up to the fifth element. So what I will wish us to know is that there are two ways of having the naming system to go from having rather that chronology of naming, moving from A up to, say, E. So the first one is you can click on that, and then at the top bar part of that screen you will see A here. So that shows you that even on the, since that is A and it is okay having it as that, we can then move on to the next grid line. Click on that, then you can change that as B. Sorry, B. Then click outside there, then you come back again to the next one, have it as C. Come back to the next one, and sorry, come back to the next one, have it as C. Then come back to the next one, have it as B. Yeah, and that now informs the change of the naming systems that we have. So I believe you can see that now these are the horizontal grid lines are in place, and the grid lines, especially for a floor plan, might not be complete until we have the vertical grid lines in place. So the next thing now is to have the vertical grid lines, and we'll go back to the grid element tool, activate it, then define a point. By here I can begin my vertical grid line as here. Then let me have it as 20 meters. Yes. Then the next thing is to drag a copy of the same. Drag a copy of the same. Sorry. Drag a copy. Drag a copy of the same. So you click on that. Then have it. Let us then maintain it as say 4 meters. And then the next one again, we have it as drag a copy of the same. Click on that. Let us have these as 6 meters. Right. So the next thing that we need to do here is to change the naming system. As you can see, uh, the naming system here is being denoted as B. So I will use a numerical system for that, where in this case I mean we'll start naming the vertical grid line as 1 up to the last one, say maybe 7 or 10, depending on the number of vertical lines that you have. So I'll come click on that, then change that to 1. Come to the second one, click on it, then change it to 2, and the rest will follow. correct. So our grading system, naming system is now complete. So the next thing that we need to do in this case is now to have the dimensions in place, and that will also help us to know the particular uh, positions, especially with regard to installation of columns or even the slabs to some extent, and also the individual pillars that we may also have in place. So by that, I'll go to document, activate it, then go to the document tools, then come to the dimension, we click on it. Then at this stage, you need to define the particular uh, areas that you want their dimensions to be known. So in this case, I'll be able to have one of them as that, then another one as that, up to the last grid line. Sorry, let's have it at that. After that, then you can choose whichever direction that you need to have the specifications aligned. So in this case, I'll use the outer one because to me, I believe it's more spacious. So you can just double click on the outer part, then you will see the lines extended, and just click on it, and you will see the different dimensions in place. So that is that. Make sure that you can see all of them. Then we come to the vertical grid lines. For the vertical grid lines, then you have the same thing. Let us have the documenting tools, then the dimensions. Then as before, we need to define where we want the dimensions to be taken. So I click on each of the grid lines, click on each of the grid lines. And that is done. So I'll click on the outer part of the grid lines, or rather I'll double click, that is, to ensure that the dimensions are in place. So you can see the line extending outside, then you click again and the dimensions come forth. So I believe you can see that we are achieving a part of our objectives for the day. You can see the dimensions in place, just to help us understand the essence of the specifications. So whatever we did there, I think it's also advisable that we have the other sides of the grid lines to be in under dimensions. And from my view, you can see that the distance between the ninth grid line and A is quite long. So that means we can add one more grid line just to make it look a bit concrete. And I'll drag a copy of 9, then I'll have it as 4. I think that is okay. Then also I'll name it as now grid line 10. I think that is okay now. So that is that. I believe now that is okay. So we can also, that means that we can also add another a dimension to it. So go back to the document panel, go to the document tools, then activate dimension, then you click on, just click on this, then click on that. Then for you to achieve uniformity, you can just click on outside here, and there you are. Just make sure that they are in line, so that you have something neat, and there we have it. So that is that. Then let us go to the other side of the horizontal grid lines, where we'll still need the dimension tool. So we'll just have that. You always need to pan in and out so that you ensure that you are having the dimension specified at the meeting point. Click on the outside, then get your dimensions. So I believe everyone can see that we have our dimensions in check. Our dimensions in check. Yeah. So there's one more thing that I wish to have is to change. We have different colors for both the horizontal grid line and the vertical grid line. So in that regard, I'll select all the vertical grid lines and then assign them a common color for that matter. So I'll click on the first one, then for each and every one of them, correct. Then we go back to the grid line tool. Then for here we'll see that we can change that to something, let me say something like orange, then click on OK. That is there. So let me see. So we have still loading. You can wait upon it, or we can just zoom out and see the changes that have come. So you realize that we now have our vertical grid lines as orange. You can see that. Then we have our horizontal grid lines as blue. Then I believe now that kind of explains how to have the grid lines in place. So you can make any other change, but what I really need to emphasize is that customization belongs to your own taste and preference. I can even decide and change the font. Can just come if you have any changes that you wish to have. You can have you can have various changes in line with the particular taste that you have. So we can even change that to Gothic. I know a lot of people like Gothic, so we can come and use Gothic. Gothic. Let me use Gothic. Let me use E. Something that I know a lot of guys love. So we can realize that the last thing now is to look at our grid lines in 3D, just to have a taste of whatever we have been doing. And let me activate the rotation tool so that we can rotate and see the actual grid lines in place. So I believe for anybody in the construction industry will really come to appreciate the fact that grid lines are always our benchmarks. They ensure that we rightfully position the construction elements in their rightful positions without having major errors. So for now, I want to thank you for your time and to believe that in case anybody had problems with having the grid lines in place, you can always learn and even practice. And if you have any comments, please make sure to leave your comment below on the comment section. And you can also, if you have any additive input for a particular lesson, please feel encouraged to do the same. And please remember to subscribe and even share with your friends. For now, thank you very much, and